Hello and you're welcome to the Big Tech Show with me, Adrian Weckley, the tech editor of the Irish and Sunday Independent. And this week we're going to talk about what is going to be big in tech in Ireland in 2022. Will it be crypto? Will it be NFTs? Will Apple launch its AR glasses and what effect will they have? Will health tech be big? And what about things like the legacy from the Theranos case? Can you still fake it till you make it in the startup world? Well, to join me to talk about these things, we have Andy O'Donoghue, who's a tech journalist in general. He's a tech journalist who writes for different publications. Andy, you're very welcome to the show.
Thanks, Adrian, and Happy New Year to you.
And Happy New Year to you. Now, we've both put forth our choices of what we think is going to be big in 2022. You have gone for crypto and NFTs, and I think you bought an NFT recently, did you?
I'm the proud owner of 5 or 6 NFTs, and only in the last week or so did I conduct my first Solana transaction, and briefly traumatized. And but you know,
what did you buy?
I bought a couple of nice, pleasant images, and there is a certain amount of fear of missing out here. And
were they Bored Apes?
They weren't. No, I'm not in that league yet. And but I bought them because I thought, okay, I wanted to experience the whole transaction process, because people, I think the Collins Dictionary NFT was word of the year 2021. People have heard about the Beeple painting for 65 million or whatever it was. I've chatted about it myself. And I thought, okay, wait, so how easy is it to buy an NFT? And there are platforms like Binance and OpenSea that make it sort of easy. But if you want to buy from an artist, which I think is where, if we're going to take the decentralization idea to where it really should go to, and artists can sell their own artwork, create them, sell them, and be paid for them. Well, you want to buy from the artist. How do you do that? And it's not that easy. You have to get a wallet. You've got to store your private key somewhere. You've got to, do all the right things. And anyway, I struggled through over the holidays, struggled through one night, got a few. And Adrian, I was chuffed. I'm really pleased.
Okay, may I ask, and not to be too rude, roughly, can you give me any indication how much you spent?
Very little. Like, we had changed. There was, a few cups of coffee involved. That was about it.
Okay, and it was an image that an artist created, was it? Is this an NFT to an original image, which gives you, in your head, what to that image?
And this is a great point, right? So, because I'm not sure what it gives me exactly. What I have got, I've got a bunch of pleasant images, and I suspect that some clever artists have figured out ways to run a little script in Adobe Photoshop that creates 1,000 images that are marginally different, and they end up with a little studio full of artwork. I suppose what I have bought, though, is a specific numbered item within a collection.
Right. And
even there, last week, there was an artist, an Australian artist, Based Joan, .eth is her Twitter handle. And she started giving away a little collection one night, 5,000 images on Twitter. And within 24 hours, she'd given them all away. She gave them away for free. But by the next day, they were being auctioned with a base price of, $20, $30, something like that. And you think, okay, this is quite an interesting practice, because I think what she has done, and it was clever by her, what she has done is she started to tweak people's interest into the world of NFTs, and very few people are going to be able to spend those millions of dollars on NFTs. But as collectors, I think Adrian, it's a really interesting practice for artists, because part of it is the resale rights within that smart contract that controls the NFT is a 7 or 8% commission for the artist when they're sold again. So it's a lovely idea.
Yeah, whenever NFTs comes up, and I've written about it a little bit and I've spoken about it a little bit, it does gauge a very divided reaction, though. Yeah. Most people still can't get their head around what they are actually getting. So you mentioned, for example, Beeple, the digital artist who sold an NFT through Christie's, no less, the esteemed auctioneer, for $69 million. last year. And what was it that the purchaser of that NFT got? Well, they got a digital token, which is provable on the blockchain, to say that they have some type of formal original association with that work of art. It's very hard to talk about copyright or, what else they get with that. The way I understand NFTs, and let me know if this kind of goes with what you understand. If you create a digital work of art, first of all, you have to accept that digital works of art are art and are valuable. If you accept that, then maybe you can also accept that something, a provable claim or link to one single original piece of digital art, i.e. an NFT on the blockchain, can have value. If you don't accept that, then you probably can't believe in the concept of an NFT.
I think that's a very fair point. And that's, I suppose, it's that ownership is the key thing there. And I mean, I suppose we also see, say, people selling the same image with different collection numbers, but that's like selling, artists traditionally selling a collection of 50 prints,
right?
And item number 50 is worth maybe substantially less than item number 1, or in the collection. But it's I mean, obviously it's a burgeoning part of the art market.
It is. The Financial Times just before Christmas calculated that it's now a $41 billion market, but they added that it's mostly wealthy people and millionaires who are playing with it, playing in that space. For example, Eminem the other week paid, I think, just over €400,000 for one of the Bored Ape Yacht Club images. Now, for any listeners or viewers who haven't seen that, you can just Google it. They're available on OpenSea, and they're fairly standard looking to me cartoon drawings of an ape who has a baseball cap or a handkerchief on his head or smoking a cigarette. And there are hundreds, I think thousands of them. And they typically go for $50,000 or $60,000 each. When I say they, what I mean is an NFT to individual Bored Ape images go for $50,000 or $60,000 each. Now, you have to ask yourself, is this a bit of a tulip pyramid scheme? Is it a craze? Is it that some people just have too much in cryptocurrency and don't know what to spend it on? Or is it genuine, valuable art? And I suppose if you were to argue that it is art, the way I would characterize it, I haven't made up my mind on it yet, but the way I would characterize it is that you can make a flawless, high resolution digital image of any world masterpiece in art. And you could print it in such a way that if you were standing 10 meters away, you'd barely know that it was a copy. Now, what is it that makes the difference between that copy and the original artwork? Well, the main difference, other than a close inspection where you can see the oil or the watercolor or whatever it is, the main difference is the assurance and the provenance that original work of art is the original work of art, painted or drawn or whatever it is by that artist. In other words, it's kind of a mental thing, really. It's a bit intellectual property thing. It's not the actual output. So if you accept that, then you can probably accept that a digital work of art, let's say the Bored Ape is a digital work of art. It doesn't matter if you can copy and paste it. It doesn't matter if you can, make it look exactly the same by copying it. The fact that you have the provenance to the original is supposedly the value.
Well, that's, excuse me, that's exactly it. And that listing or record on the blockchain is there forever. If you have it in your wallet and you transfer it, sell it to somebody else, artist earns a few quid, new person gets ownership, but the record of your ownership is always there. That's an interesting thing, by the way, I think in a variety of ways for, revenue organizations, customs organizations, for import, export, taxation, things like that, asset transfer,
money laundering.
Well, exactly. But a record of assets and transfers helps to defuse money laundering. I think, it is, yes, it's fascinating What did you say? Did you say it was about $60 billion industry?
$41 billion industry, according to the
industry. And which is, I mean, I suppose in a sense, not surprising, because you look at the amount of trade that websites like markets like OpenSea are doing. It's remarkable. But there was a couple of interesting things during the year. Like Damien Hirst announced his NFT project. I think it was called Currency. And what he did was he took real world works of art and then an NFT version, and you bid on one and you selected which you wanted. And if you took the NFT version, you got the digital version, and he destroyed the physical version. And I thought, that's a really interesting thing. We're committing art to digital rather than the tangibility.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it's an article of faith.
Yeah, exactly.
That in the permanence of digital, that you can have something digitally and it can be permanent. Now, I'm not quite there in my head there yet, because I'm the victim of too many old digital formats and USB keys and Sony Walkmans and all sorts of stuff that end up being obsolete after 5 or 6 years. But I can see what he's saying. Just before we move on from this topic, though, there is definitely space for hucksters and chancers.
Of course
here.
there is.
I mean, I'm seeing stories daily of people who are, there's one woman who is currently selling farts in a jar as an NFT.
Yeah, it's okay. That's a niche market.
Yeah, it's a niche market. I think she gets about 30 quid for them, though. There's another one there's another company that sells, actually, it's not another company, it's Charmin, the big toilet paper company in the US, is selling NFTs to digital toilet paper, essentially as an art piece as well. And there are some risks as well. Like there's an art gallery owner in the States called Todd Kramer, who a week just around New Year's, actually, there was a big controversy because he clicked on a phishing link and over 2 million euro of his NFT art tokens, including, by the way, 15 Bored Ape tokens, were stolen immediately. And he took to Twitter and he asked for help. And people came back at him and said, well, sorry, but you made your bed. You don't have any recourse now. One person said, I think they tweeted to him, oh, I'm really sorry, your apes got stolen. Guess I'll go draw some police for you, So there's a big risk and health warning with NFTs as well.
There is, but I do think it will be interesting to see how it develops this year. I think we're likely to see more artists who paint in the real world start to produce maybe 10 paintings, producing a digital version. The Damien Hirst example is, I think, an interesting one. And can artists create more opportunity and more markets for themselves? I hope so. Okay,
so anyway, you think that NFTs are going to be an item this year. I think they will be as well. I'm not convinced that it's going to be the next stage in art, but I could well be wrong on that. You also think that Apple's AR glasses are going to be a thing this year, augmented reality?
I do, yeah. I mean, these have been, we've been talking about them for years now. And I think, maybe 2021 was probably the planned date for them. I do think we'll probably see them before the summer, the late spring, maybe. I think maybe even they'll go on sale in the autumn. And I think, Adrian, it's going to be, it's a long, Apple get that criticism. It's difficult to keep inventing new product lines, but I think
well, they've done pretty well. They've gotten a lot of criticism over the last few years, but some of it has been very unjustified. I remember the people saying they haven't invented anything since the iPhone. The Apple Watch? Are you kidding me?
I know.
It is literally the best-selling watch. By it, nothing else even comes close.
It doesn't. No, in fact, it's the best-selling watch, not just digital watch.
Oh yeah, it's the best-selling watch. I mean, AirPods by themselves,
a Fortune 500 company.
Yeah.
I know, and so it's and obviously, having worked there for a long time, I always feel a bit needled by that criticism. But AR glasses, I think. As part of the iPhone ecosystem.
Okay, so I was going to ask, what do you think they'll be used for?
Yeah, I think it's iPhone. I think I think the handset will be less and less important to us over time, over the next 3 years, particularly. You just you have your Apple Watch there. You'll get a pair of glasses. You might, in a year's time, you'll be able to have the prescription lens, although maybe the patents indicate that Apple may have cleverly designed them so prescriptions mightn't even be necessary. That imagery will help, will work with your eyes.
So you think where Google glasses and Facebook glasses and Snap spectacles have kind of tried but not really succeeded, you think Apple's going to go there?
I think they're
make it work.
I think you've mentioned three products that are very different in a sense. You and I chatted about the Ray-Ban glasses back in the late summer. They're not geekware though. Okay, they have a geeky function.
Speakers and a microphone.
Yeah, but they look pretty good.
There's no display.
Yeah, but Google Glass and the Snap spectacles, very different and pure geekware. Apple won't make geekware. I'm sure they'll look fabulous, and I'm sure that as we the whole metaverse idea, fine, but the functionality that they will bring to daily life, I think it's genuinely going to be very useful.
Did you see that video that Walmart put out about shopping in the metaverse? Have you seen that one?
No, I haven't seen it.
Okay, so imagine it's VR really.
Yeah.
And you're walking around a supermarket and you're digitally picking up bottles of wine. There's an assistant beside you who tells you, well, actually, our records show that you already have that wine. Do you really want that? Yeah. You put it back in the basket, and then you bring everything to the till, and you're automatically checked out. And it's kind of interesting. I don't like shopping, so to me, it's hell. But it's quite interesting.
Yeah. I think depending on where we go, interesting. I'll be curious to see what audio that the AR glasses have. Obviously, Apple aren't going to cannibalize the AirPods business, either end of it. But there are interesting things. I mean, I'm sure you saw that addition to AirPods that Apple have made that kind of implies that they're heading towards a hearing aid functionality for AirPods.
Yeah.
And so if you have that sort of functionality in your AR glasses, which will be useful for people who are hard of hearing, if they can help people with accessibility, maybe for zooming in, for lighting, for night lighting, for people who have trouble with their eyesight in various ways. These aren't going to be like a fun pair of spectacles like the Snap glasses. These are going to be probably edging towards the health services that Apple are increasingly appear to be focused on.
Okay, and you're fairly big on health tech in general this year, right?
I think, I know it's it's a sector that I have an interest in, but I just think the last 12 months have been truly fascinating in regards to health tech. I think, we have proven that we don't need to go to the doctor as often, but we can still get healthcare. I think we've probably learned how to not go to the doctor and get even better healthcare now.
Do you know what I did before Christmas? This is going to horrify about 50% of my listeners. I did a 23andMe test.
Did you really? Yeah.
DNA.
Yeah.
Now my package still hasn't reached because it's weird. You do it, you spit into this vial, you put it in a package, you then send it off. It arrives an address in, I think, Holland, and then it is sent from there to the States, to the US. So for the last 3 weeks, it has been undergoing this epic journey, and it still hasn't arrived there yet. But the only reason I mention it, I'm kind of doing as a professional interest, but the basic idea behind trying to figure out what underlying conditions you might have is actually a fairly wide one now. Let's Get Checked, which is the Irish company, which raised, I think, 150 million last year. Their basic thing was you can, take a COVID test, you can take an STD test, whatever it is, but they're also planning on introducing a new service which is based on DNA, which is essentially where they will be able to warn you in advance and say, look, this shows that you have, you may be prone to this type of ailment. This is what you might consider that you might want to take. And if you like, we'll schedule you in for it.
I think you've touched on two really interesting things that are, and obviously everything isn't going to happen in 2022, but I think this is really the start of it. One is you've mentioned the consumerization of healthcare. So, Adrian, 5 years ago, let alone 10 or 20, could you have envisioned that you would be able to get the 23andMe test, do it at home and get that DNA analysis? That then leads into fallout that we see came from, say, the Human Genome Project. And there is absolutely no doubt that personalized medicine has started and it is developing. And so your DNA analysis, not only will it identify conditions, but in the next few years, it will allow biotech companies to create medicine specifically for you, not just treatment, but medicine specifically for you. The other thing that you've touched on there is how is the consumerization, right? And we know, I think it's been launched in China, but the new Huawei blood pressure watch, and you know that is, people have talked about blood pressure, wrist bound blood pressure being the holy grail of medicine, of medtech. It's not really, but it is really difficult to do. And I understand that Huawei have done this. And so if we see that, and then if we see something like Apple Watch being used for insulin analysis, like that is remarkable decentralization of medtech that was very difficult to do. A friend of mine works in the respiratory field, and he has patients who present with data from their Apple Watch or their Fitbit. Wow. And he doesn't dismiss them. He takes it and he sees it and he says, yeah, you can rely on this as something that will lead you down a road that needs to be traveled. I think that's fascinating, and it has been expedited by the pandemic. So if there is a silver lining to, you know, the housebound people that we've become for 12 months, it is that healthcare has really surged. We've seen 5 years worth of medtech work done in a year, and that's fantastic.
Yeah, I know. I know that 20%, maybe not 50%, but 20% of listeners to this conversation are screaming and saying, what about your personal data?
Yeah.
You know, you're sleepwalking into like a dystopian nightmare. It's possible. It's possible. But I do agree with you that elements of that, no matter how the personal data element shakes out, elements of that are irreversible and are going to be, or probably will help quite a few people. We don't only have time for one or two more. How about one that I'm slightly fascinated by? You believe that we're going to face seminal questions this year based on the Theranos legacy, the whole fake it till you make it kudos.
I think it's been a fascinating event. And, you know, Elizabeth Holmes, as we chat now, she's been found guilty on 4 of 11 counts, probably a mistrial on 3. I think what we've seen is actually remarkable. In
what way, though?
I think, first of all, the way Theranos behaved was remarkable, and the way they behaved, and she and Sunny Balwani reacted to John Carreyr's exposure. And for any of your listeners, Bad Blood is one of the best books about the industry that I've ever read, and also remarkable work from an investigative journalist. I think it's remarkable because people will begin to think, well, should we lie to investors? Should we exaggerate how advanced we are in development? Or should we tell people the truth? And
well, that has been a central tension for all startups since the beginning of the tech industry. I mean, I'm aware of not just a few, but very, very many startups here in Dublin, presumably abroad as well, then, for whom there is a tension there. There's a tension between selling your idea, maximizing the potential, maximizing the scope, and revealing the limitations as you understand them to be. Now, a lie is a lie, but sometimes there is a gray area where you're not sure. You know,
it's, you know, look, it's such a big question. I mean, I don't know what the fallout will be, but you know, every business plan is a bit of fiction. Every business plan is a bit of fiction. You make assumptions. The difference with Theranos is that real people's lives were affected. And we heard them in court. And although Elizabeth Holmes wasn't convicted on the charges related to those, to the patient impact, and I was surprised she wasn't. I think that's that's something that people will reflect on. In other parts of the technology business, People will continue to exaggerate their numbers. I suppose what was different here is the numbers became very big. I also think one of the really curious elements about Theranos is perhaps it will have no effect on Silicon Valley, because I think there was only one at most West Coast investment involved. Everybody else was from the East Coast. The story was, and I'm sure you heard this, the story was people like Google Ventures went out to the Walgreens, and there was this chatter that Theranos, it never really was going to deliver. And yet they got an impressive board together. They raised a lot of money, and but it was never going to work. It was never going to work. And that technology, I'm sure eventually, but to get over the venous blood draw question is going to take engineers and doctors decades or more to perfect that.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Look, we do have a few more things we could mention, but we just don't have time. But Andy O'Donoghue, tech journalist, thank you very much for joining me this week on the Big Tech Show. And that's all we have time for next week. Happy New Year to all of our listeners. And we'll talk to you same time next week. Bye-bye.